What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another mailbag. Now, it's been a while since I've done one of these. It's been about a couple weeks, and I put out a prompt a few days ago asking you for your questions for this mailbag. So I'm gonna answer about 10 to 20 questions. I don't know how many of these repeat, but if they do, I might not get to yours, but I'm gonna try and get to all the questions that you guys posted on that prompt. Now, before I get into this mailbag, you guys can support me. There's a PayPal link in the description below. That's just if you want to give back to the channel. And there's also a Patreon link. If you donate $10 a month or more, then you can guest up here on some post-game shows or some podcasts. That hasn't gained much traction lately, but I'm gonna still plug that a little bit just to let you guys know that that option is always there for you guys if you want a guest on the channel. Also, for the next mailbag, I ask that you guys please don't ask trade questions because I'm going to separate trade questions from the mailbag. Now, I will post a prompt for trade questions in regards to a trade specific video, and it will kind of be like a mailbag. It will just be trade related. I'll have that for you guys soon, as I know that trades are the most interesting thing right now considering how poorly the Portland Trail Blazers are playing. So with that being said, I'm not going to answer trade questions. I will answer all other questions though. So jumping straight into it, got the questions right here. We're starting off with Mike Posner, who says, when you imagine the Blazers in 5 years, do you see Ant, Nas, and Zach all on the team in the starting lineup? And it's hard to project the Blazers long term. They could easily trade one of those guys for a big upgrade. Maybe they include Nasir Little along with some first round picks along with Hassan Whiteside in order to go out and get Blake Griffin this year. Or they sit tight and let that young talent develop and they still have all those guys in the future. I don't know, it's hard to say, but I do like those three as a good young core moving forward. This next question piggybacks off the previous question. Austin Wax says, are you scared that Neal will make a trade but give up way too many young players? Collins, Little, and Anthony are the future. I know you guys talk trades and look at trades all the time, but how disappointed would you be at the Blazers if Neal gave away our young stars for Blake Griffin and we still don't win a championship? I'd be disappointed if we gave up Zach Collins for Blake Griffin. I'd be disappointed if we gave up Anthony Simons for Blake Griffin. I would rather keep those two than Nasir Little at this point. And that's not an indictment on Nasir Little. It's just if I had to pick two of those three young talents. I don't think Olshey would include two of those guys in a trade for anybody unless it was like a top 10 player in the league. Olshey loves his young talent. Olshey loves Simons. He loves Collins. Like, Olshey's not going to give up a bunch of young talent. He's not going to overpay in terms of young talent for a guy like Blake Griffin. I think he'll be smart. I think he has the long-term vision in mind when building this team to try and win right now, and I don't think he's going to do something so drastic that we end up giving up multiple guys from that core. And if we do, then I think it would be a move that would cement us as maybe a top 5 team in the league and like a legit contender. So either way, I trust Olshey right now. I don't think he's going to do something bad. Tommy Thompson says, we seem to hold our own in the first half. The second half, especially the third quarter, we fall apart. There's got to be a correlation between that and assist numbers from the first and second half. I feel like they're more comfortable passing the ball in the first half, more assists and in the game. The second half seems like they're not confident in other players and resort to hero iso ball, albeit less assists and playing poorly. Thoughts? I've noticed this trend as well, and honestly, I have no idea why this trend exists, but I think this trend is definitely there. Portland seems to lack focus in the third quarter. I don't know why. I don't know what the reasoning is, man. I don't even know how to go further in depth on this because I do agree. I can't give any reasoning to it. I don't even know where to start. Dame Dallas says, how do you think this team will perform once everybody gets back? And I have no idea, because this could be a different roster. We could make a trade by then. Who knows how well Nurkic will play once he returns. I have confidence in him, but it's still yet to be seen. Collins, hopefully he gets back in March, but we don't even know if he's going to get back in March. There's just way too much up in the air right now to project how this team will play down the line. Hamza Chima says, our defense has been awful this year. We are allowing 115.3 points per game while scoring 112 points per game. Our offense, I think, is decent right now, and I'm hopeful it will get better as the season goes on, but I'm scared that our defense is still going to struggle. I think David Vanterpool was a good defensive coach for us, but he went to the Timberwolves. Do you think this may be the reason that our defense is bad? I've seen several times that the opponent is wide open and our guys are defending the same player. Now, Portland has definitely had some defensive breakdowns in terms of miscommunication, in terms of not being on the same page defensively, and those are definitely frustrating. I will say that there's more of those instances than there were last year, but that could also be a little bit of chemistry. I don't usually use this reasoning or this excuse often, but guys just aren't on the same page defensively. Maybe it's not chemistry, maybe it's poor communication, I don't know, maybe it's not having Vanderpool. But honestly, that's not their biggest defensive problem. Their biggest defensive problem is how much they foul. They foul more than any team in the NBA. Teams get to the line like crazy against the Blazers. It's been very frustrating as a fan to watch. It's part of the reason why games aren't super entertaining and are super frustrating lately. We foul teams like crazy. So we need to cut down on that, because fouls and sending guys to the free throw line hasn't been a major issue for us until this season. So I think that that's the biggest difference between our defense in years past and our defense now. I mean, you look at a guy like Kent Bazemore. He's getting over 5 fouls per 36 minutes. That's ridiculous for a wing. We got to stop fouling. We got to stop sending guys to the line. And I'm really interested in seeing how good or bad our defense would be if we simply fouled at an average rate instead of at the highest rate in the league. Necron99 aka Sammy Boy says, Nicolas Batum trade or free agent in off season. He's a free agent end of season, high price contract this year still though. Nicolas Batum is going to accept his player option for the season after this, because he's going to make $27 million. He's not going to make that up on the free agent market. So he's going to accept that player option. He's going to be making $27 million a year, not just this year, but next year as well. I would do that trade for maybe a Bazemore and I don't know, maybe another piece if we did get back a good young asset, you know, like a Miles Bridges or Charlotte's first round pick, but I don't think that's going to happen. That's what it would require for me to take on that mammoth horrible contract that Nicolas Batum has. He's also always injured, so he's not really a guy that I would like to consistently rely on, especially given our injury issues already, but I might be intrigued in Portland possibly taking on a bad contract to add assets to their stockpile, especially if they keep struggling. You might see Portland being willing to take on a bad 2-year contract for one of their expiring contracts in order to multiply their asset pool. Michael Cook says, in what ways are we missing Zach, and do you think there's any chance he could come back before March? And honestly, I don't see Zach coming back before March. That's when he's being reevaluated, so it's not even sure that he's going to come back then. But we're definitely missing him on the defensive boards. We're one of the worst rebounding teams in the NBA right now, and having Zach Collins at power forward next to Whiteside would make us one of the better rebounding teams in the league. So defensive rebounding has been a major issue for us, and we're missing him in that regard. We're missing his rim protection too. Our defense would be better. I think we'd be a better team than we are right now, but I'm not going to use that as an excuse for a lot of the issues we've been dealing with, because a lot of people in Blazers media, the more mainstream media, you know, not me, not this YouTube channel, they simply use the Zach Collins injury as an excuse for almost everything. I don't think it can be used to excuse almost everything. I think Stotts is doing poorly as a coach. I think there's other issues with the team, but I talk about those on almost every single post-game show, since almost every single post-game show is after a loss. So I'm not going to go into further depth on those topics in a mailbag. Dickie Chung says, do you think we can adjust back to playoff contender level? With this awful performance by Whiteside, can he still be an attractive trade piece for other teams to get some good player for the Blazers? Whiteside hasn't been horrible. Whiteside is the scapegoat for a lot of issues that aren't actually Whiteside's fault. I disagree with the way the Portland Trailblazer fan base is treating Hassan Whiteside. Hassan Whiteside has been solid. They've been good. Without Whiteside, Portland just lost to the Cleveland Cavaliers when the Cavaliers didn't have Kevin Love and the Cavaliers were on a second night of a back-to-back. Without Hassan Whiteside, we're a much, much worse basketball team. That's not to say that I wouldn't favor trading him, and honestly, his trade value is not affected by how well he plays. His trade value entirely lies in the fact that he has an expiring contract, which can be used with assets attached to bring in almost any salary in the NBA. A lot of teams trading a big salary want to clear the cap book. They want to have an expiring contract in return so that they clear up money once the offseason rolls around, and Whiteside would help teams do that. We could attach picks, we could attach young assets to Whiteside, but his trade value is entirely in the fact that he's an expiring contract. There's a lot of good NBA teams with good starting centers, so a lot of good NBA teams aren't going to want to trade for Whiteside anyway. So you're looking at maybe a team like the Detroit Pistons deciding to blow it up and trading Blake Griffin and wanting an expiring contract back for him. That would be the type of trade that Whiteside would get sent out in. And if the Detroit Pistons are blowing it up, they're not going to care how good Hassan Whiteside's playing. And I'm going to skip out on a couple of these questions because it's kind of like some questions I've already answered, but also just know this: I don't know. I don't know what this team is going to look like once the playoffs roll around. I don't know where this team's going to be once the playoffs roll around. I don't know what trades we're going to make. I don't know how Nurkic is going to be once he returns. There's a lot of stuff up in the air, so I can't project long term. Adam vs. Eve says, do you think Jodie Allen wants to sell the team? It would be easier to move the franchise with a bunch of fans being pissed off with the team just saying, the moving the team thing is not an option. The NBA wouldn't allow that. There's no rumors about Jodie wanting to sell the team. I don't want to go back through this again. We went through this all year last year. Yeah, I'm not gonna speculate on, oh, maybe the team could move, or maybe it's easier to move the team if fans are feeling the way they are right now. I don't think it's something that's even remotely on the horizon. Part 2, do you think Stotts is punishing the organization for trading one of his favorite players, Myers Leonard? If that was the case, that would be a debacle of epic proportions, and this organization would need a makeover from the top down, from Neil Olshey to Terry Stotts, because those guys should be on the same page. And if Terry Stotts is tanking the season to punish Neil Olshey for trading away Myers Leonard, that's absolutely ridiculous. Myers Leonard is a role player. He's a role player. He's an average starter at best, and deciding to tank a season when we could possibly contend in the end would be absolutely ridiculous. I don't think that's the case. Part 3, it's sad to see that Paul Allen is gone, but thank God he's not alive to see us sucking this bad. Honestly, Paul Allen would be more likely to make a big move than Jodie Allen. Paul Allen would be more likely to cut bait with Terry Stotts than Jodie Allen would be, so I wish Paul Allen was still here, obviously for the, wish he was still here as a human being, but as an owner too. I think this team would be directed much better through this adversity if we still had Paul Allen. Henry Walker says, do you think that having Melo in the starting lineup will hinder Nasir's growth a bit? He was a starter for 3 games before Melo. And if Nasir Little's only getting 13 minutes per game while Melo gets 35 minutes per game, then it will definitely hinder Nasir Little's growth. These guys should be playing near equal minutes. I don't think that Melo is a better player than Nasir Little right now. I don't know why Carmelo Anthony is getting 3 times as many minutes as Nasir Little. It doesn't make much sense to me. We'll see how Terry Stotts handles this, but that's been one of my biggest complaints of Stotts this season, is how he handles his rotations. Lance Pinkle says, who would be a good target for us to look at signing in Gasol's place, or should we sign anyone? I want Joakim Noah, or I want Kenneth Faried. We need to rebound the ball better. We need more size at center. With Hassan Whiteside out, we've been playing Anthony Tolliver at center, and that's not going to work. Hopefully Hassan Whiteside doesn't have any more injury issues from this point on, but we need to rebound the ball better. That's one of our biggest issues, and I think that Scott Labissiere can play some power forward. I would like having a guy like a Joakim Noah or Kenneth Faried to play center off the bench. Those guys could play next to Labissiere, and we'd have 2 bigs in the lineup, and our rebounding would be a lot better. And then on top of that, I would advocate not even playing Kent Bazemore anymore. That guy has been awful. That guy has been struggling. I'd advocate playing Nasir Little at small forward. So in terms of our small forward, power forward, center rotation for the starters, we'd have Hood, Melo, and Whiteside. Melo's a solid rebounder, and then Hassan Whiteside is a really good rebounder. Our rebounding should be fine with that lineup. And then off the bench, small forward, Nasir Little, power forward, Scott Labissiere, and then center, Kenneth Faried or Joakim Noah. Our rebounding with that lineup, I actually think, would be really, really good. And what is a weakness for us right now would all of a sudden become a strength, and I think it would help us win more games. Now, do remember this. Kenneth Faried did sign to go play overseas in China, so I don't even know if it would be possible to bring him from China and bring him back into the NBA. Joakim Noah is a more realistic target since he's not playing anywhere right now, but either one of those guys would be a good signing in my opinion. So anyway, that's all the questions that I'm going to get to today. Make sure to leave your question down below, and I'll get to it in next week's mailbag. Remember, no trade-related questions. I'll post a prompt in the community tab for you to ask your trade-related questions for a trade-related video. So anyway, that's it from me. This has been Tori. Hope you guys have a good week. Peace out. Go Blazers.